address that, but let me address it this way. There was actually it was like a clinical psychologist that was doing an analysis about, actually it was directors, people that have been executive directors in their career. And these are very, 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 very old directors. He wanted to see if all these years of being in that position influenced, their mental capability at this old age. So he went to the first director, very, very old. Talked sort of funny, but was pretty old, so that was understandable somewhat. It may have been where he came from. So he said, Richard, how much is 9 times 9? And Richard thought for a few minutes and he said, 212. And the psychologist says, well, this is not good. Maybe that does take its toll over the years. So he went to the next very old director and said, Chuck. And by the way, he picked Chuck because Chuck was still wearing this Iowa State jersey that doesn't fit. And he says, Chuck, how much is 9 times 9? And just like that, he came back. He said, Tuesday. So he's getting really nervous. And he said, so look, I got to find out what's going on here. So he went to one of the oldest directors. And it took a while because there was a lot of glare around there. But he finally said, Larry. He says, help me out here. He says, how much is 9 times 9? And Larry says, 81. And he said, that's amazing. He says, thank you. You really helped me here. He says, how did you get that? He says, I subtracted Tuesday from 212. Now, what has that got to do with where I'm going? Sometimes you get to the right answer at the right time by a crazy path. And I think in some ways that has to do with part of the announcement yesterday with Connectivity Solutions. We've done some crazy paths, gone in different directions, have gone through a lot of due diligence with a lot of people that were interested in us and some very good companies. And we've come right now to an answer in this journey, which says, basically the company said that, look, we understand that Connectivity Solutions is not a long-term strategy for Avaya, but we really think that the business, which has a lot of potential, is very underrated right now from a valuation perspective in the marketplace because of the conditions in the telecommunications industry. And they have basically said that we'll be remaining right now with Avaya. So what does that mean? It means that basically, I think Steve Clark was here yesterday, and he apologized for not being here. He wanted to come. He wanted to be here for when the announcement was made. He did come for a few hours when he's on his way to New York with the board meeting that he has to attend. So that is important. So we understand. But he made the analogy is like you're trying to sell your house, and you're just not getting the value for it, and you take the sign off the front lawn. And basically that's what we've done. We've taken the sign off the front lawn. So we'll be staying with, in at least in the near future, with Avaya. So sometimes, no matter how you get there, the path, you get to 81 from them. Okay. I don't think that should disturb us. If you remember, even before at the break from Avaya, we had stated that, look, we understand we're different than the rest of Avaya. And that our worth to the corporation really was our performance, how we generate profits, cash, and grow our revenue. So I think we're really where we were before. And I'm going to ask you, and myself and my team, that we get focused on the business. I think there's been a lot of interferences, rightfully so, because we were trying to represent this business appropriately. But we got to concentrate on the things that really make a difference. If we want to look at This is our business, and it's still going to be run as our business. And it's more important than ever that we deliver the financials. That's no different than it was before. And so if we want to look at where we want to go, we want to look at security for ourselves. If we want all of us to grow and have more money and bonuses and things, it hasn't changed. So let's get focused back on that so that we can grow this business and grow and bring people back and be very successful. So I encourage you that we do that. And we want to, in support of that, I want to go through the 2003 plans today, but I want the directors that are the champions of these different areas that we're going to talk about here in a few minutes to walk you through the 2003 plan. Okay. So that's all I'd like to say about connectivity. We'll get a chance at the end if you got a few more questions about it. We'll go through that, or you want to go through some of the results of VIA results. On an Avaya perspective, I think there was a lot of good news in that statement also. If you look at the ongoing operations results, the losses were reduced down to about $6 million, I think it was, for the quarter, from 11 to the third quarter. And the cash grew by about almost $200 million through basically through accounts receivable improvements. So they haven't touched the credit lines. Cash is now up to like $600 million in total. So there's a lot of good things, I think, even in the VIA. I noticed the stock's up like 14% this morning. So I think it's been received fairly well from the investment community based on early indications of the stock. And the market's down about 10 points. So anyhow, let me talk first of all. We've gone through this before. If we look at the mission and the vision, you can see that again. We still want to be, you can read that for yourself, but we still want to be strong in the three areas that we have, the three product lines that we really have: the System Max side, Exchange Max side, and the cabinets. And I want to complement the strategy to be the best, to help our customers be the best, is what it's saying, in the communication side network. That I think there's been some tremendous work done during the recession or depression that we've been in. I want to compliment the cabinet team. I think they've done a tremendous job. They have now worked and partnered with different electronic vendors in our cabinets. A couple of their competitors, both Alcatel and Marconi, have announced that they're basically getting out of the cabinet business itself. Their electronics business is on the cabinet side. I think they position themselves tremendous that when the SBN service provider network, the SBCs now of the world start buying again, that they're going to come back and grab great share and have great revenue. So I want to compliment that team. I think System Max has done an outstanding job also this past year with the rollout of XL, both on the cable and the apparatus side, positioning ourselves for the next generation of System Max. So, and then the pricing on bold pricing is that we've done and gained share, and it is working. It's another showing that we're not just sitting around. We're getting ready to make sure that we're the strong or stronger competitor as we get going and get out of this recession. Exchange Max, which has had toughest times, I think, are still trying to do some things like on the net set side, which is like, to me, an intelligent DSX, which is the next generation there. So there are things they're trying to do with all the pressures they have on themselves when that market has really fallen off a cliff. And I think that team is really trying to position themselves. So if you look across the businesses, although we haven't seen a lot of it, say, on the revenue side, because people basically aren't spending yet. We're not sitting back with our heads buried. I mean, they're doing some great things, I think, on the product side, so that we'll see these volumes increase in the future as the market picks up. And I want to compliment them on that. And I think we'll be able to manage that. I think one of the things is just another comment about being, say, we're staying with Avaya, is really Avaya went to the CS model. They now have lines of business very similar to ours, and we are going to be continuing to put the resources into our business so we can control those things that are critical to the business. The sales team will now and will in the future report to Steve Clark. Okay, not reporting to a general sales team. They're going to report to Steve. Same thing is going to happen with the IT community and some of the others. So we're bringing in the resources that are critical to the business, so they're under the Steve Clark umbrella. So we're really looking at operations like almost like a subsidiary. I think that's good news. So even though you can say, hey, there might be some clouds as to exactly our future, I think there's been a commitment there to run this business correctly. And I think there's another commitment they're saying, and even in the earnings announcement, if you go out to the page, the web page for Avaya, it says we will invest in connectivity solutions, basically is what they're saying, so that it grows to the potential that we think it has. So again, I think things like this, having the mission, the new products roll out, the way we'll be treated, even if we stay in with Avaya, it's just perfect for us to grow this business. So I want to compliment everybody that's been working on those things. So I want to talk a little bit about where we are in 2003 and the profits, our profitability picture for that, and then I'm going to ask some of the directors to go through. I'd like to take us through and start getting into the habit of reviewing again the cost, quality, service, the business processes, people, and the technology platforms a little bit, so we keep that in mind so everybody in this room understands what the goals and objectives are of the organization. And I think that's really critical. We've got to be focused. It's more critical than ever that everybody in this room understand the direction we're going. There are less of us. Okay, so everybody, every minute of the day, from myself and you, has to be focused to make sure what we're doing supports the strategies of this business. And we got to remind each other and push back on each other on this. A lot of the things you'll hear about is a lot of people in this room were involved in helping to pull through our manufacturing strategy that we're working on. And so a lot of the goals and objectives that you'll see in 2003 came out of that work. And the people that will be presenting will try to highlight that to you. We're also asking for feedback and pushback in certain areas. If there's things that have been left out or things that we're not concentrating, it's not the right priority. We got to work together on this. This is not here. Here's your assignment. Go do it. And we all need to make sure we're engaged, pushing back, respectfully, making sure that we're all agreeing that what's in the business plan is what we need to do. Okay. This is an eye chart, and I'm not going to go through all this, but if you, it's a black button. If you look at here, the plan for 2003 on the revenue is roughly $510 million. Now we did roughly $575 million for 2002. So what we decided was, look, we think that we're bottomed out, but let's make sure that we're going to drive this business to be profitable at about the 510 level. Okay. If you look at the gross margin right here, we're talking about for the year to be around 26%. At this type of levels, that is be a tremendous achievement that we're going to do, and we're going to do it. Okay. I just read the financial report this morning. It was sent out on General Cable, and their gross margins for the year ended up to be like 16%. And that's not a real apples-to-apples comparison because we have distributor costs and truck and transportation costs and our other incurred costs or factory costs, which I don't think most people do. So if you did that, we might be in the 30% range, 35% range, compared to some people that are running in the 15 to 20% range. So we're in a position, we're working on it, sizing the business, the cost reduction that we've been doing, the improvements that we were getting in material costs, all that, putting us into a great position here that even at these lower levels, we can be profitable. We'll have a 26% gross margin. And if you really look at down here, operating income of about 30 million positive for the year and about 56 million there in EBITDA, which is like an indicator of cash. Okay, EBITDA is just interest before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. Don't worry about that. It's an indicator. Accountants do that so that this sounds cool. It's a cash indicator, okay? So that just tells you if there's money in the checkbook. Look at it that way. So we're saying that from a P&L standpoint, we'll be positive 30 million, and we'll be positive from a cash position. And that's important because if we treat this and run this as a business, I think we'd all like to get our paycheck at the end of the month. And you can't do that without cash. So it puts a good plan. If you look at the first quarter, it's going to be our most difficult challenge. We're saying it looks like planning on like 110 million. The fourth quarter that we just finished was about 129 million. Okay, and that was down roughly around 20% from the third quarter. So we are expecting time of year, winter already, that, you know, the revenue, we expect it to drop a little bit. We still think it's bottomed out, but we just think some of this is going to be the seasonality here. But I think it's really critical that we prove to Avaya and ourselves that we're now positioned right, we're sized right, that at this level we're going to be profitable. And you can see we're saying we're going to be positive both in OI and also in cash. And we've got to demonstrate that. And so I implore all of you to make sure that whatever we're spending, whatever we're doing, is focused on the business so that we meet the objectives. I think that first quarter is really critical. If we make the first quarter numbers and demonstrate that we can be positive in OI and cash, then we have a chance to have some fun in the second, third, and fourth quarters. Okay. Richard, is that your first, or did I skip up first time? Okay. I'm going to ask Richard to run through the cost, as he is our champion of cost. Just one thing, I know the people in cable have been mourning for the last 30 days, but so you all can mourn. Richard has decided to stay with us, okay? Richard has been I'd like to thank the EWC people to report to him for that applause. Since we're in the middle of performance management, I expected nothing less. But I think it's another positive move. I think Richard brings a great element to our team with international experience. He's run factories, and he's been basically here on loan to us on an international assignment, and has opted to stay with us, which shows, I think, a good support that this business is going to be very successful in the future. Richard would not do that, I'm sure, if he felt he was not going to be employed in the future. We were not going to make it as a company. So I think that's another leading indicator off to the side that says we're going to make it again. So I want to welcome Richard permanently to the team and let him say a few words.
I pushed the wrong thing. Thank you, Ray. You're right. I think this business does have a really good chance to succeed. Just as a few comments, you know, it's going to take all of us. And hopefully we're going to roll through here some of these strategies and things like that. And you're going to sit back there and say, how are we going to do this? And I'd just like to give you a personal example of what happened to me this morning and some of the issues that we have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. Bumped into Ray this morning coming to work, and he says, okay, we're all ready for the presentation. I said, yeah, I think I'm ready. Okay, and then he says, yeah, make sure you speak English. I'm still trying to figure out what I'm doing wrong. Okay, so bear with me, and I'm going to try and do my best. So that's what we're asking everybody to do. Just before we get onto this slide, perhaps I should have had a blank slide in there, but I don't know any single person that wants to spend more on what they buy, on anything that they buy. I'm pretty sure that every single person in this room would like to spend less. Okay, that way you can buy more. Same thing goes for our customers. Our customers want to pay less for our products tomorrow than they did purchase them today. And it's important that we understand that in a competitive market that we're in, when the market's low and there's lots of choices to buy things, the ability to provide a product or a service that has you know, the right value equation, which comes down to cost, service, and quality, the ability to do that is really the strength of an organisation such as us, because that's what we do. So our customers have that same choice. When they go to buy, they're looking at what it costs them, what service they get, and what quality they provide. And you'll find that those are some of the core elements of our strategy going forward in trying to take that market share that we're trying to achieve, profitable growth. The very word profitable means we need to focus on the cost, because we can sell it at any price, but if we can't be profitable, then we're not in business. So I just want to set the same with that. Last year, everyone probably knows that we have the Forum for Cost Reduction. Okay, last year we had a spend of around about $350 million, give or take. Accountants in here will probably hang me up later, but somewhere in that zone of stuff that we control, material that we spent, the scrap that we produced, the expenses that we incurred, added up to around about $350 million. The Forum for Cost Reduction contributed about a $35 million reduction on that, which is pretty significant. And that came from 364 ideas from people in this room. Okay, so that is fantastic effort. That is really good. That has been a continual success story year over year. Okay, there's no doubt about it that there's less of us here this year. Okay, so the requirement for one idea per person is just doubled. Okay, that's the first metric. But all jokes aside, that is a very, very important part of the way that we manage and understand how we're managing our costs. We also took a slight change last year in trying to refocus and going back to some of the basics. Okay, it's great while we had a few great ideas and stuff like that, and we need to continue that. We went back to basics and said, what drives cost? And we've got this fishbone diagram. Okay, and basically it's pretty simple. We broke this up into a couple of key drivers. Okay, we have cost, material, the cost of materials. We have the cost of our labour, and we have the cost support. We have some other miscellaneous costs, which is that bottom one. Okay, if we have a look at the total cost, let's say it's 100%, 48% or around about 50% of that is in materials. Okay, so the way that we handle materials, the way we purchase it, the way that we use it is 50% of our cost. 23% is what we do to turn that cost into product, or to turn that material into product. We spend around 22%, okay, on what it takes for us to provide infrastructure services and what we would traditionally classify as support. Okay, and we also have around about 7%. Now that will change. You'll see some information from Chuck. He's going to focus on the F2003 budget. This was what we did last year. We took this chart and basically said, okay, now how do we take opportunity here? What can we focus on to go after? And we came up with 5 teams, okay? And we took 5 leaders of our business and we asked them to go away and focus on these particular areas to come back with what can we do? How can we achieve cost reduction? Where do we need to focus? The 5 teams were basically material utilisation, okay, which is how we convert material. Includes things such as scrap, component costs or components that we use, alternatives to current components. We have the actual physical cost of the stuff we buy and the terms and conditions all contribute to cash and how we manage the material coming into the business. Okay, traditionally a GPO function, but also requires a lot of engineering support to change what we do there. We also have the cost of inventory, okay, looking at lead times with suppliers. You know, if we can shorten the lead time, we don't have to carry the inventory, which is cash that we pay out for product that we're not moving. We have a team focused at, you know, what do we do in the infrastructure? Is what we're doing the right thing to do? Are we doing too much? Are we not doing enough in certain areas? And we also have a team looking at, you know, what it costs us to convert it from a people perspective. Not only looking at productivity, but all the other things that go with that. We're looking at health and safety issues, all the things that drive personnel cost. So we took all that and we took the output from those teams. There was 5 key teams involved, 40 people, over 40 people in those teams, and that's separate to the cost flow. Okay, many of those people were the same, but this information was put together with quite a few people, and the outcome of that was basically there that we need to continue with the Forum for Cost Reduction. Okay, last year it was $36 million. We need to continue generating the ideas and the concepts. We also need to do a few other things, okay? We need to figure out and improve our productivity and utilisation by about 15%. Okay, that's the target that's on there, and we have a team leader that's able to focus on that, and this will be deployed out on what we need to do at an individual basis to contribute to these goals. We have material utilisation. Let's improve, it's 50% of the cost. Let's improve the way that we utilise material by 5%. And we also want to be looking at a cost reduction in inventory. We have a large inventory, or a large amount of money tied up in inventory. I think it's like 130-something million, isn't it? 130-something million tied up in inventory. Okay, I'm quite sure everybody would like 1% of that without a problem. So, anything we can do in there to reduce that, and that's going to require a lot of work. That's a lot of work with our suppliers, a lot of work with our engineering teams, and so on and so forth. So we all have some aspect that we can all contribute to driving costs down, okay? You're probably sitting there figuring, just like I was, trying to figure out how to speak English, okay? We all will have a part, and we need to all make sure that we do focus on being able to provide that input that is so necessary for our business in today's times. What I'd like to do now is hand over to Chuck, and he's going to talk about our infrastructure support.
Yeah, good morning. I'll try to get us caught back up, okay, Richard? Anyway, looking at our total budget for 2003, and again, Richard mentioned that when you see some percentages on my charts, they look a little different because Richard was looking backwards in time, and I'm looking forwards in time in terms of what's in the budget. In breaking down our costs into some international costs for the operations internationally, operations in Omaha at 21%, and the material being about 56% of our total spend in cost of goods sold. And then the last piece being infrastructure, 16%. And introducing a new term here, infrastructure teams, as opposed to manufacturing support or support teams, really for a lot of reasons. One is that I think it's a little bit better to understand as infrastructure as very important components of the business, and it really does truly support the business. So I'll use the term infrastructure as we go through this. Very quickly, to break it down into the infrastructure teams cost, what we used to call manufacturing support things, you get a breakdown of what's in there. About 16% of our cost in the 2003 budget are projected to be infrastructure costs. Last year was about 22%, and this year again we're projecting about 16%. Last year was based on what we actually spent, and this year what we project to. What we need to focus on here is some of the activity that's going on is identifying those measures of value for each of these infrastructure teams. Whether it's in maintenance in terms of, might be something like a mean time between failures type metric. SAP might be looking at how they respond to heat tickets and all those kinds of things. What are the important measures in each of these organizations in terms of how they provide value? A really key concept in this is, as these teams work forward, is going to be on optimizing the value proposition. And really a good thing that came to mind that I thought of was I was out golfing with Al and Cruz and Julie and Stan Mason one day, and we started off on a par 3 hole. And I think I teed off first. I hit a real nice shot, about 120-yard hole, and I hit it about 123 yards, a little bit to the left of the hole. It was a real good shot. I think Stan said, hey, that's a great shot. Al Cruz came up and teed off, and he hits the ball, and again, a very good shot. His was a little bit shorter. Mine was better because it was a little longer. His was a little shorter, right? So mine was better, right? But still an excellent shot. He missed by about as much as I did, but front and to the right a little bit. Stan Mason gets up. He puts it in the cup, okay? All right, so Stan had the best shot. I had the longest one, okay? Al, I think, had a little backspin on his. He probably had the prettiest one. But Stan delivered the goods in terms of putting it in the hole. And optimization means hitting the mark, okay? It's not providing, when we say, hey, I want to provide world-class service in my organization. Well, world-class is defined by what the customer really needs, okay? What does the customer really need? Not necessarily the best against some other measure. So we've got to be real cautious there that we don't get caught up in, well, I can keep exceeding, I keep exceeding. Well, the question is are we fitting the customer's need? And that should give us the most cost-effective strategy for providing whatever service we provide. Again, it'll be evaluations, performance. We use really the same things in infrastructure. We'll be looking at productivity, some measure of productivity, some measure of quality, and some measure of service performance. We'll use a lot of benchmarks. Teams are looking at benchmarks in terms of how others spend money. For example, in terms of managing an ERP system, how much does a typical company in our kind of industry spend as a percent of their revenue, those kinds of things. So looking at benchmarks to find out, are we in the ballpark? Do we see some opportunities to improve? Is there somebody that's delivering something better for less that we can look at and see what they're doing? Of course, always measuring to optimize, find any gaps, and what can we do to optimize the performance versus where we want to be for our customers versus where we are. And the other thing is probably one of the big steps we're taking right now, which has more to do with making sure in supporting our businesses business units, that we're getting the money allocated to the right organizations, the right amount of transportation is being charged, the exchange max, for example, or the right, that we've got the proper allocation of maintenance charges to System Max, those kinds of things. One of the first things that we'll get a lot of stuff rolling here soon is this afternoon we're having a meeting to look at how we're allocating the cost of infrastructure among the business units. I think what will come out of this meeting is a better understanding of where costs are incurred, who they're incurred for, and then from there, then the business units will have a better flavor of what their affordability is, what they can expect, what they should have, and a lot of things I think will stem from there. But anyway, getting back to overall the infrastructure teams, we continue to work the issue of what are the right metrics for our business, what defines optimum performance in our sense, and what is best in class in terms of supporting our customers from infrastructure. That's all the comments I've got. And I think Randy's next, and you'll notice that I am out of uniform.
Thank you so much, Chuck. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about quality objectives. Objectives really are about change, and someone once said that you know, I knew I was going to forget this story when I got up here. So I'll forget the stories. Thank you. No, if you, no matter where you go in life, that's where you're at, okay? No, that was what I want to show you is the model that we developed to kind of let you know where quality fits in with the whole business approach. If you want to look at what are we looking for from a standpoint of business, we want to deliver profitable growth, like Richard said. Success equals dollars. How do you get those dollars? Well, that's to provide customers with value. The more value that you provide to your customers, the more dollars that they're going to give you. Now, the way that customers look at that value that you provide is in the dimensions of price, quality, and service. The way that we deliver price, quality, and service is through people working with tools and processes inside of the business. That's what we call our system of work. And the thing that it's called a quality management system, you might call it a business management system, is basically the framework that we use to help us manage our system of work. From a quality perspective then, our objective is to increase customer value and reduce costs by continuously improving our quality management system. So improving the quality management system helps us improve our system of work, which improves the customer value, which should enable us to get more dollars from our customer. Okay, so that's basically the simple story in terms of quality and what we're trying to deliver. Increasing customer value and reducing costs by continuously improving our quality management system. We're going to do that in two basic elements. The first is to manage consistency. Two programs associated with managing that consistency of our business. It's to implement something called enterprise process management, which should allow us to drive the variability of how we do our daily work. And it's more about control and understanding what we should be doing and doing that in a consistent manner. And also the second program around managing consistency is aligning our quality management system with something called TL9000, which is the telecommunications industry's quality management standard. It includes ISO 9000, 2000 for those of you that know anything about it. And aligning around that standard should allow us to help us manage the consistency of our business. The second element that we want to undertake is to manage change. So once we've reduced the variability in how we work, then we want to manage change through a program called Six Sigma. Six Sigma is very team-oriented, And so we've reduced the variability of our work, and then we want to bring in the Six Sigma program to allow us to do step function improvements in those, process areas by applying Six Sigma teams. So those are the basic objectives from a quality perspective: implementing enterprise process management, aligning our business with the TL standard, and then implementing the Six Sigma program for improvement. I'd like to talk just briefly about one of the three elements there, enterprise process management, just to give you a little bit of a framework. Enterprise process management is a part of our quality management system that impacts process and helps us manage the processes in the business. We have made some progress in that area. Initially, this is kind of the textbook definition. Enterprise process management is the active, ongoing, systematic management of all core and business support processes to improve business results. What we did was we defined a process map for the business, starting with the 5 highest level processes. You can see them there. Enterprise management, we start out and say product development, customer relationship management, and supply chain management are the 3 core processes that deliver product to our customers. Then we have 2 support processes, enterprise management and business support. Okay, so we define that, and we define sub-processes for each of those. So they're broken down into sub-processes. And we assigned owners to the highest level processes. You can see there, Dennis Curtis has enterprise management, Chip Baines has product development, Tracy Henry has customer relationship management, and you'll hear a little bit more from her about that in a minute. Larry Bailey has supply chain management, and John Schluter has business support. Now the intent, the direction that we decided to go was take a slice of this and start working on defining the processes, setting up the measures, and then setting objectives around improvement in a particular area first. And the one that we chose was customer relationship management. We've assigned sub-process owners here, and we've got a team of people that have been working with the sub-process owners to do that process definition, understand what is critical in terms of the customer in that process, establishing measures and so forth. And the intent is then to move from customer relationship management then to, in a plan, to the rest of the processes. So that's basically enterprise process management in a nutshell. So next I'm going to turn it over to Larry, and he's going to talk to you about service. And maybe I'll remember that story. I don't know.
It's great following Randy, because when you go from all those slides to one, people start getting excited. First of all, I'd like to start off by thanking my boss for recognizing me as being the oldest director. And just to check on the levels, is the glare too bad back there, Marcia? Are we doing okay? What you're beginning, I'm sure, to see and probably not question, but understand, as we walk through the various elements of our strategy, you see a lot of things kind of crossing over each other. We're talking a lot about process, we're talking a lot about customer value, we're talking a lot about the elements of cost and service and quality in terms of what's of value to our customers. And so my particular part of the strategy, if I can get it to underneath? Oh, underneath, way underneath. Since I have one slide, I can get rid of this. Is service. And we kind of have a vision for our service, and we've stated it here, to become easy to do business with. Now, if my 8th grade teacher, English teacher, could only see me now ending a sentence with a preposition, she'd probably roll over in her grave. But it really articulates well, I think, our vision in terms of where we need to get to move to the next evolution in our business. When you think about it, if we're easy to do business with, you begin to repeat customers, you begin to grow relationships, you begin to do all of those kinds of things that solidify yourself in the marketplace. So that's our vision. We have, for the upcoming year, we have 4 basic focused areas to that vision. The first being to exceed customer expectations. Now, all of you, at one time or another, if you've sat in a service meeting, have heard about commit and request metrics. And we're going to continue to use those. But what I want to communicate to you is that is only a small piece of customer value. You have to deliver when you've committed to deliver. You need to try, as you evolve, to get closer and closer to what the customer's requesting in terms of your delivery. But there's a whole bunch of things beyond that. And so one of the first things we're going to do this year is we're putting together a global customer satisfaction survey. We're going to do that in a very disciplined fashion, and we're going to glean better understanding of what's really of value to our customers in our particular market areas. So 2 areas under the exceeding their expectations. We're going to continue down the path of measuring ourselves to commit and request and improving those and doing root cause analysis and do all that sort of thing. But we're very rapidly going to go to that next level in the evolution. The second area, which again isn't mutually exclusive from the first point, but is a very important point from a customer standpoint, is that we consistently communicate accurate information to our customers. And that becomes a greater and greater challenge when you think about the technology that we've implemented over the last 3 or 4 years. Because we've got more access points than ever before for our customers to come in and get information from us. They can go to the web, they can call up Gretchen's team in the CCC. We've got hard copy catalogs out there. We've got a myriad of ways that customers get information from us. And there's nothing worse than a customer looking on the web and seeing, oh, gee, I can get that thing in 2 weeks. And 5 minutes later, call the customer care center, and, well, no, you really can't get it in 4 weeks. Our system says 5 weeks. There's nothing worse than giving confusing, inconsistent information out to your customers. So we're really going to focus on putting a team together to define not only the processes for doing that, but the data accuracy around how we get to a higher level in that area. The fourth bullet has to do with the relationships with our primary business partners. As you may or may not know, a significant portion of our revenue stream flows through our distributor partners, primarily the Annixters and Graybars of the world. There's a lot of things that we can do better from a service standpoint to enhance those relationships and build stronger partnership. There's a lot of things around data in terms of point of sale and inventory that we can move to so that we can better respond as their customers draw things off of their shelves. We can also, I think, do a better job of continuing to define and refine our respective responsibilities in the supply chain. When you think about it, a distributor is really out there for a couple reasons. They have customer contacts, they sell to end customers, and they have inventory locations. Should we be stocking things here so that we can stock and send to their stock? There has to be better and better ways of working that relationship so that the total supply chain is enhanced with regard to the revenue we run through those streams. And then another point under the distributor partnerships, they do a lot of things already that we're not utilizing as well as we could. They put together report cards on us. We're going to enhance our focus on those report cards to improve our ability to work those partnerships. And then finally, and probably most importantly in my heart, is the globalization of SAP. From a service standpoint, it really cleans our final technology landscape up from a connectivity solution standpoint. I put a qualifier under there based on affordability. As you saw Ray show in our revenue outlook for this year, we've got a couple challenging quarters coming up. And we're not going to, in some cases, spend the money that we were originally planning to spend to do certain projects like an aggressive globalization of SAP. I will tell you, though, that we are not taking that off the plate, and we're going to do the things that we can do with minimum cost to continue that effort going forward. And as soon as the business conditions will allow it, we'll very aggressively finish that equation and deploy globally. So with that, I think Chris?
I noticed on the Easy to Do Business with, you don't have anything on the back end in terms of payment collections, marketing programs.
Right. There's under the customer expectations piece, there's a significant number of detail that I chose not to get into. That's definitely on the plate, though. Okay, thanks. Tracy?
Thank you very much. Good morning. Before I get into going over some of the business processes, I just wanted to take a moment to go back to what Ray said about the transition and potential sale of the business. Everybody in this room really made a difference when potential buyers came in. They came in the front door not expecting, don't know what they expected, but many thought this factory place in Omaha, and every one of them that came through left with just an overwhelming awe about the place, the people, the focus, the energy, even in a down economy, that everyone seemed to be so focused on ownership of this business. So I just wanted to tell everybody thank you for that. It was a long road, and we made it through, and we'll see what happens. I'm going to go over business processes since I am the champion for that. As you have heard already, every portion of cost, quality, service all involves the business processes. You have to have a process in order to reduce costs. You have to have a process in order to serve the customer better. And so one of the areas that we focused on, and Randy went over this a little bit, was the customer relationship management piece. And I am the champion of that, along with Bert Lewis from a sales operations side. To your question, Chris, you've got some of the marketing programs and so forth underneath that piece. And then Gretchen on the order fulfillment, as well as the total customer service end. I'm not going to get into the details of all of those. But what you will start to see is we are getting away from the silo business that we used to operate. No longer are we AT&T, Lucent, and we're changing the way that we operate in Avaya. Well, we used to have more of the siloed approach. Now with the introduction of enterprise process management, we will have uniformity across the business. Not before, since the last probably year, have I seen the team, and when I say team, not only operations, but sales and R&D come together and communicate. We have weekly sales calls now that we had never had before, that we understand what's happening globally. We do a global roll-up, and it's not to the end of the month where we say, how do we get this revenue in? We're proactive and have a process in place to follow where we are. Dashboard metrics. I mean, that's a pretty big word for everybody. Well, what does that mean? Well, what you have seen so far are a number of metrics that we want to come back to you with at every town hall and show you where we are. I mean, that's what we need to do as a management team so that we can show a measurement. Even on a weekly basis, I'm going to work with the finance team and see if I can understand. They do a great job at the end of the month in pulling together our operational results, but I'd like to see that on a weekly basis so that everyone in this room understands where we are against our cost targets. Where are we against our revenue targets? And it might be estimation, but at least it's something that we can visually see and measure our teams against. Those will be cascaded down, as well as all the other objectives that we talked about today. And everybody needs to take ownership, and I think Ray mentioned this at the beginning too, not just taking my 5 things that my manager gave me to do, but challenging those. And then working with the teams to implement new ideas and new cost reduction activities and new business processes. I made up some time. I'm going to pass it over to Richie, and he's going to talk about people.
Thank you, Tracy. Reverse. Little fingertip Get in the way. Good morning. If we had a common theme this morning, you heard over and over, people, people, people. All the prior charts, view graph, slide that you saw could not be done without people. We value people as our most valuable resource. And as a result of that, and I hate to say this, but I guess the ratings are in by now, but I'm always looking at Ray Schwartz as a commander-in-chief, head coach, personal friend, sometimes someone you can sit down and personally challenge to make sure that we're doing the right things. One could argue why, as a labor relations person, the people champion, and I guess I challenge back by saying, why not? This is really a new adventure for me and has been for the past year and a half. But when we talk about people, we automatically bring in the transformational leadership portion that we've been doing for the last year and a half, 2 years, and many years prior to that. And basically what that is when I listen to Ray talk, he has this obsession with transformational leadership that if we do it, and we do it correctly, we will all be better leaders. And he is not going to let up on that until there's a metric on everything we do, that every one of us understands the business and understands it well. I guarantee you he will not go away. I'm not trying to be humorous here. We'll probably build him up because I work on his ego too much, but it's a fair, honest statement that I have to make about Ray. Under the leadership portion is a new survey, and you're probably going, oh boy, another survey. What are they going to ask us now, and what are we going to do now? Basically, that's going to be a repeat of last year when your subordinates, people you support, rate you and how you do relative to the certain components of leadership. And then we're going to see how well this year you've done compared to last year and is year over year. Okay, so it's good data. And someone says all the time to me, in God we trust, everybody else brings data. Now, you probably know who that person is, right? Okay, feedback sessions, basically what those are is the same thing we've had all along, is Ray needs to calibrate, is this working or not? And he does that by having meetings with first-line supervisors or manager. He invites to whomever wants to show up to come and attend, and he has down the basement in the training rooms so he can hear and reiterate the 4 components of transformational leadership and basically how you are receiving that. Is it the right message? Do we have to do anything different? Or what are we doing wrong? And I urge each and every one of you to be open and candid with these in these sessions. The team cannot read your mind. If it's not working, you need to raise your hand. Like Tracy said earlier, let's just challenge it and push back. The next item is development training. Obviously, I won't repeat each one of those up there, but I talk about products, policies, business, etc. And the one I really want to focus on, what that means is we have to understand our products more in development training, what we do, what we produce. Not only in Building 30, but Building 50. Not only what's going on there, but what's Gretchen and team doing in customer care? What's Marcia doing in Building 20 in materials management? If you really want to get some real information, what we're doing in labor relations, okay? Me, facetiously, of course, we're part of the team there, of course. And the fact of the matter of Management 101 is supervisor training for our supervisors, our managers, to say, are we doing the right things? Are we aware of what has to be done? I think Tracy put it well one day, it's a common sense of running a business, you the supervisor. What do you need to know? What do you have to know for you to feel comfortable to be able to be a people's person and address sometimes not always good news, but bad news relative to disciplinary action? How do you get someone an attaboy, attagirl? How do you just say, great job, team? How do you do that? Well, as you know, in labor, we've done some role-playing with yours truly, Flintstone, and my counter-war friend over here, Kazoo, remember that, with Mark McQueen? And I think customer service has been doing some of that role-playing also. How do we address people? How do we address the customer, et cetera? Those will continue. Please feel free to send me an email message. things you have, ideas you may have that you may want to see differently done as a team, feel free to let me know. Next item is safety and environmental compliance. As you all know, we just got through with the an OSHA audit, trying to maintain our VPP status. And I want to just take a couple minutes to recognize Tracy and Paul Baumann and his team, coupled with the union partnership on the Joint Union Safety Committee, which encompassed Debbie Galizia, Rick Palmer, Bernie Stopak, Sam Martin, and then there's Jay Carpenter on the salary of the 5-tier universe, and Steve Odell in 1974. I think they did a great job of trying to get us together, go through the audit, get the auditors to understand what we're doing. But in saying that, they did note some discrepancies that we have to take care of within 90 days. And Paul Baumann and team have already put out subcommittees to address each component relative to the discrepancies. But at the same time, the senior managers and senior leadership, especially Ray, aren't real happy with the results. He takes it pretty personal and very critical of himself and of us as a team, not pointing fingers. We should do a better job supporting these policies, these procedures, and making sure that we have a safe working environment for all of us. So you may hear more on that later on. So I just want to just say, Paul and Tracy, great job on that audit. I really appreciate that as a team. Develop and deploy performance standards. We talked about earlier widget making. Each area has performance standards that employees adhere to, whether it be non-based or based, meaning where you can rate them, or someone drives a forklift. We have a standard we're working on right now to go across the entire plant, not just building 50, we're building 30, but the entire plant, to ensure that we administer that fairly and consistently. And we've got to get some more input from the building 20, and we'll be able to put that out sometime in the immediate future so we all have the same standard of productivity measurement. Communication. I'm always tapping all these minds I talk to. I'm always impressed of the people we just hired to the people who've been around for a while. And I'm really impressed that they are open and candid and get some good information from there. I continue to insist and challenge anyone to please push back. Don't agree, you raise your hand and say, I got a problem with that, whatever. Obviously in a professional manner, but we have to do that in order to raise the bar. And we do that by having these kind of all-hands meeting. We have to do that by cascading business objectives from us to our people we support to make sure that we're in alignment. No mavericks, no cowboys, but we're all doing it together. I mean, it just has to be, you have to have a passion for this business. You got to have a passion and understanding and caring for people. And you have to have this attitude that you're relentless to succeed. You got to have the tenacity of a pit bull on crack. Don't walk out here saying that Richie's talking about advocating drugs. But can you imagine a pit bull on crack? I mean, I think he's going to get what he wants, okay, quickly. But in a nice way, we need to be able to harness that and capture that. So that's my commitment to you as a people champion, to let me know, email, whatever, what's going on. With that, before Tracy, I'm going to be quiet. I'll just get off now. Okay, Tracy? Mr. Ray Schwartz?
Thanks. This is pretty, I apologize, we'll be done soon. It's pretty scary when I see what I got to work with. I got a pit bull on crack. Larry's number 3 bullet was number 4, so he can't count from 1 to 4. Let's see, Richard can't tell jokes. I don't know who else I can pick on, but just quickly on technology platforms. A lot of that, there is the global engineering centers here that we know of, and the businesses are doing a lot of work. I alluded to this at the beginning. I think some really great work positioning us as the business turns around. Dennis Curtis and Julie Nielsen and Chip Baines, which are the general managers of the businesses that we have been doing a lot of work in this area. There's a lot of great things being done looking at the future. Everything from cabling and looking at fiber optics and things like this, and plastic optical fibers, and all want a bunch of what-ifs that are going on that everybody's looking at. So a lot of that is headquartered in Richardson, Texas, at our headquarters. I think for this morning, I just want to let you know, we're not ignoring the future, and we're growing that back. And I think that's important that we understand that on the operations side. Okay. Let me sum it to where we're at quickly. We went through a lot today, but there's been an awful lot of effort that's gone on. We alluded to the fact a lot of the thrust for this year came from the manufacturing strategy work that a lot of people in this room have been working on. It came from the necessities from the financial side of the business. But if I had to recap it, one thing I want to make sure you remember walk out of the room is some of the key areas in here, okay? The revenue and the profitability we got to reach. And then how we're going to get that is through some of the plans that you heard from the directors this morning. So don't make it just once a month. We get together and then we go back and do our job. We need to make sure we're very actively cascading this with every employee that's in the business. So I expect if you have your departmental meetings, and pull these out. We'll make sure everybody gets a copy. Understand what we mean by enterprise management processes and what's important. It affects productivity. It affects a lot of the people in here. If anybody ever tries to get a capital project approved, they understand how bad processes can be, right? Okay, that impacts productivity. You don't get the equipment, so it's going back to some basics, so that as we become this new division now within Avaya, that we have the processes to support what we need to do and do it quickly. So understand the things that are in there. Richie alluded to the fact that there's other things. We got to go back on and engage our people. We've had a lot of interrupts and a lot of negative news on that front. I told my team, I think the combination of the layoffs that we unfortunately had to go through, on top of the sale of the business when we were all working on the due diligences, we've basically put myself, in isolation, okay, so that you don't see us. Now, we don't want to do your job. Nobody can do it better than what you can do, but we have to make sure you understand the direction where the business is going. And we got to be able to relate. You got to be able to ask questions and feel comfortable doing that. I mean, that's the only atmosphere we can have to make this successful. So it's very important to me that you're taking this information and then you digest it outside of this meeting and you look at it and you delve it. If you got a question, ask Larry that attended the meeting, ask Richard, ask me, and we'll try to make as many as we can. But we got to get and have maybe a re-engagement of our efforts now, so that we're successful in the year 2003. And on the people front too, I took it as a personal disappointment on the OSHA report. To me, we failed, and I'll take full accountability for that. I think there was enough signals there that we did not put the right priority on that. And so what I'm encouraging is, if things like that happen again in the business, that to make sure that you, in your job, are pushing back on us appropriately. That's what we want. We want open discussion on the items so that we know we got the right priorities and we're putting the money in the right place and we're going to drive this business to be successful in the future. So please, just don't take this as slides or paper. Make it an active part to make sure the things that you're doing on a day-to-day basis are the right things to support this. If there's things missing, if there's things you don't agree with, let's talk it out. And we need to do that as a total team. So basically, we're back to the power, I was talking the power of one. And if you look at it, it's up to you. I can't run this business. If I ran this business, we'd be in real trouble. My job is to help guide the ship, make sure we understand what the goals and objectives need to be of our owners, of ourselves, would be successful in the marketplace and support that. You have to do what's on your plate and your responsibility. And we have to rely on every individual. There are less of us. There is no fat in this organization. And every minute of the day, we all have to be focused to make this better. And I'm confident. I think Tracy's comment was right on target before. And she was being very open and frank. They made a point to tell us that they were very, very impressed with this facility and the people. So let's take advantage of it. So hang in there. I know there's been a lot of distractions. Let's get focused back on 2003. And get to that point where we drink champagne, remember? And I think we're close to it. If the economy turns around, and I'm hoping it does in the year 2003, but I think it's going to be third quarter, then I think we're going to be in great shape and grow. We're positioned. Okay. So not spend any more of your time because I know we're all busy. Is there anybody that has a question maybe before we break that they'd like to ask or brave enough to ask? Yeah. You need a mic?
Not on purpose, but I did forget to mention, and especially with not being facetious, is Sam Martin is an integral part of the safety committee with the company, Union Joint Safety Committee. So I also want to correct, I said Jake Carpenter, I meant Jake Cartwright, so I apologize.
Thank you, Rich. I should have used you and Randy as my example of the old directors that could remember things. I had the wrong people. Larry would have stayed, but. Okay, yes.
I had a quick question. Is there any update on the front property out there?
Yeah.
There's all kinds of activity out there.
Yes, there is. Would you like me to tell you? Yeah. Oh. Yeah, I mean, it's a process that the roughly 50 acres on the west side of Via has said that they were going to sell. The activity is still related. They're doing evaluations on the land, and this Home Depot is the buyer of the land. We've been working pretty active with them. We've been working the issues of traffic. And I'll give you an example is we don't want anybody associated with that on any of the roads that we have. We just think that'd be a safety issue. So that means my team and myself have been involved with the city and Home Depot and Avaya Realty and ourselves trying to straighten that out. Homero's been helping us in that area. So there is a lot of activity. It's still moving forward, good or bad. And that's what you're seeing that activity do, and core samples and lay of the land and drainage issues and things and traffic issues. So all those type of factors are being worked on. They're hoping that basically it's closed by the end of the third quarter type of thing. Okay. Good question. Yeah, there's nothing wrong out there. That's just everybody's doing their own due diligence on the property, right? Okay. Good question. Anything else? Okay. Nothing? All right. Make sure that you go through these things within your departments, okay, gang? Have a great day.